Friday on 3, everyone.
Dude,
One,
we live in a
2, 3.
society.
Friday.
It's gonna rain tonight and I'm gonna be outside.
Mr. King.
You're the people that listen to that stupid Friday song.
Friday.
It's Friday.
Friday.
7 a.m. You wake up and you have
Friday.
Sad thing is, I know.
When I say Friday, you say date.
Get out of place.
Why are you disrespecting
Because that is the worst song, like, fucking human being.
She makes other songs now. I don't listen to them.
She never created any song.
When I say done, she
She
just
just
like
singing one day.
Mr. King, we live in a society.
Alright, so, take a look at this. Your synthesis question, as I said, we'll go over some things with it on Monday as well, if need be. Maybe we'll get through everything today. We'll see how it goes. You have your prompt here at the very top, which we'll go over momentarily. The page is double-sided. You have some notes down below, which we'll talk about. I did also on the back end put and key thing here is potential, suggested, possible structure that you could use. Because what tends to happen when it comes to writing a synthesis, because you haven't written one yet, people will go, well, where do I begin? This is a place that you can begin, but it's not going, this is what's going to happen in every single one of your body paragraphs. But it at least kind of gives you an idea. And as we get closer to your writing date, we'll go over those things in more detail. Big thing to take note of, notice it does say synthesis rough draft due on Monday the 19th of November. I told you yesterday your essay will be due in December, and it still is, but we are going to do a rough draft for this one, just so you don't put it off to the very last minute and then have a really poor product that you would submit.
That is
Great.
Okay, you're right, but like,
But you work better under pressure,
maybe.
so you can still feel that there's some pressure on Sunday the 18th. Monday the 19th is that Monday before Thanksgiving, so it's a abbreviated weekend. And you'll have laptops in class Monday the 12th through Friday the 16th. So you'll be able to certainly work on some things with it, and as you have issues, we can go over that. I don't think you'll be working too much under pressure for that rough draft. But I want you out of a rough draft just to make sure the sources are being used, that everything's okay, before you'll end up submitting your final copy. That final copy will still be in December. So all of your independent reading stuff will get turned in. Your final independent reading stuff will get turned in before you do your final synthesis. Plus, we'll also kind of do some sample synthesis stuff together so that you get a little bit more exposure to how that's going to work. The one thing to be aware of, not just the one thing, is somewhere within your essay, you are going to have a counter argument. So you're going to have like a rebuttal paragraph where you address opposing viewpoint and then explain why it may not be correct. That's regardless of the position you take. But again, that'll be something. And similar to how King was doing that within the letter from Birmingham Jail, where we looked at how he took things that the opposition stated, and then he would do a rebuttal, he would refute it. He'll do a similar kind of aspect within the sentence. But again, those will all be things that we'll take care of. Looking at the prompt itself, just like any kind of AP synthesis prompt can be set up, this one's broken up into 3 parts. So the first one up here is essentially establishing the context. So it establishes the context of the prompt. The middle part is the actual prompt. So this is the one that you'll probably pay the most attention to. And then when you get down here at the bottom, this is when you get a little bit of a reminder of the rules, and you also have the source material down here to take a look at. And since you got your visual sources in Steinbeck, you have all the sources that you need. So far as the context of the question, 1891 Irish author Oscar Wilde, which you know from Importance of Being Earnest. It was a good play. Some of you were just too young to read it.
I like
Go ahead. Should read it like in this year. This would be a good year for it. We'll read it again.
I would wait.
Wait, what? Which one? What are you reading?
The importance.
Yeah, the Importance of Being Earnest. I think you did some. If
In
you,
9th grade, it was our
it
summer.
was your summer reading for going into 9th grade. Yeah. I think 9th grade
That
will be
is
up.
Did you say we read it again?
No, we will.
Oh, okay.
We should.
The guy's name was Ernest, and then she liked
Oh,
him,
that
and
book.
his name
It wasn't
wasn't
Ernest.
I was.
And then he pretended to be
I
the
didn't
other
like his
guy.
name, or
Exactly,
it's
yeah.
sexy. I like that book, and I like the second piece. And I hated it.
Don't mention the
That's
separate
why
things
I'm
in my
not
presence.
What?
Stop.
Didn't Oscar Wilde make Charlie?
So, 1891, Oscar Wilde observes, disobedience, in the eyes of anyone who's read history, is man's original virtue. It is through disobedience that progress has been made. through disobedience, and through rebellion. Wilde claims that disobedience is a valuable human trait and it promotes social progress. So now for your actual prompt, in an essay that synthesizes and uses for support at least 2 expository chapters from the Grapes of Wrath, so non-Joe chapters. You have a look of disgust on your face. Oh well. So 2 expository chapters as well as 3 other selections from the stuff down here. Write an essay that argues your position on the extent to which Wilde's claim have been valid throughout the history of the United States of America. So technically you have 4 sources that you have to use. You could kind of argue that, well, really, Mr. K, you're being sneaky. I have 5 because I have to take 2 separate chapters from the Grapes of Wrath plus then 3 others. So you could quote the Turtle chapter 3 times, but you would still need to have another expository chapter within it. So you can't go like all in on 1 chapter. So you'll have 2 chapters coming from the book. Then you can pick any 3 of the other sources that you want to use, when it comes to A through E. If you want to use all the sources or more than just 3 of those, you certainly can, but you can get as high a score as anyone else using 2 chapters from the Grapes of Wrath, and then whichever 3 of the other sources you want to go. You're not going to get penalized if you only use the cartoon, the photo, and like King. We're not going to go, well, those were the easy sources. You get 6. That's not going to happen. The wording. So write an essay that argues your position on the extent to which Wilde's claims have been valid throughout the history of the United States of America. Anything jump out or anything confusing or question about what it's asking you to do?
So it says during the U.S., like during the history of the U.S., but like Wollstonecraft was in England, so.
Yes.
Okay.
So there could be like some potential confusion. Putting the United States of America so that we have a common basis that everyone's going to be looking for. She's writing about Great Britain. So because it's a synthesis where it is a blend, so you're not just doing an analysis of her article or of her chapter from her book. With the synthesis, you blend sources with your own ideas, your own arguments. So you could take some ideas that she presents and explains how that could be applied to U.S. time, whether it be something in the past or the present. And that would really hold true for any kind of source, or even though Thoreau and King are writing about things that are happening in the U.S. We mentioned yesterday when we were, I think it was the photo, what kind of laws could they be protesting, and we said just and unjust laws. You could argue that there are still unjust laws that exist in today's society for the United States that you think should be, changed, or there should be some kind of revolt or rebellion. That doesn't mean you have to solely be talking about race issues or gender issues if you're dealing with Wollstonecraft or taxes and stuff like that with Thoreau. So you can take ideas that they present in the sources and still connect it to stuff that's going on today, and that would be perfectly fine. So the context of her argument is Great Britain, but her ideas, whether it be about equality, education for women, or just some other concepts in general, can still get applied to stuff that's happening today. The one thing you want to make sure you don't do is, since it says throughout the history of the United States of America, this would encompass that you are looking at both the past, but, oh, Gray, you're up to it again. Really?
Sorry.
Guess what other word I wrote?
What?
It shows up on my screen.
Present.
Yeah, so you'd be looking at both the past and the present. So if your use of the sources solely becomes, well, this, at least within the more modern era, 2018, 2017, 2016, you're going to be coming up short a little bit with that. So whether it be Wollstonecraft, whether it be Thoreau, whether it's relevant within today's world as well. So not that you have to say right now, but what would be protests that are going on that you would agree with? What are protests that you disagree with? How are they relevant? Do they still help with human social progress? It also, the key word that gets included would be, I'd say, the extent to which Wilde's claim have been valid. So you could decide, I'm all in with him 100%, I'm completely against him 100%, or yeah, I agree with him, but there are some limitations to it. So you could certainly argue that within the realm of Martin Luther King Jr. and Henry David Thoreau and Wollstonecraft, that yeah, protest was necessary, but maybe it's not as necessary today. Or when protests are a good idea, but they go too far when this, and this happen. You know, those could be ideas and points that you kind of bring up. So the big thing I think that many of you are going to have to kind of consider is what would be stuff from outside of the sources that I want to include. Remember, just because you have to use like 4 sources and you're going to have 4 body paragraphs approximately, I guess for most of you, that doesn't mean you have 1 source per body paragraph. Yesterday we were connecting like 3 sources at a time, you know, talking about majority and minority and all that kind of stuff with the cartoon and still going back, I think, to King and whatnot. You could have paragraphs where you don't have any sources, that's fine. You can bring in talking you could bring in outside sources if you want, but they just can't replace other ones. So don't go, hey, I have 3 articles that I'm going to use. That means I don't have to use those other 3 articles, or I don't have to use the Grapes of Wrath, right? No, you still have to use those things as well.
And you said like we should optimally not write like too much because we'll end up summarizing the. Well, you said something about like how if we. I don't know. I don't know how you worded it, but you said like, how long should it be? Like, is it okay if it's longer than 4 body paragraphs or whatever?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's where, like, on the, so far as the length of the essay, if you look at the notes, and this is on the front part, there's that suggested length where it says, looks like you froze it again, where it says 4 to 6 pages. That's not me going, you have to write 4 to 6 pages. Over the years, for this type of essay, that's just where most of them tend to fall. On the back, where there's that suggested structure and whatnot, you do have to have a counter arc. One of the body paragraphs is just a defining as to what we mean by disobedience, what do we mean by social progress, because that could be a very different thing for all of us based on just our viewpoints, upbringing, and whatnot. So in some ways, you might kind of have like an intro and then like intro B kind of paragraph before you get into the argument. But there's not you're only getting a 5 because you only have 3 body paragraphs. Or, whoa, you wrote 7 body paragraphs. Are you nuts? I'm not going to read all that. There's no limitation, to those things. And don't be afraid that, hey, I could have some areas where I don't use any of the sources because it's mostly my ideas that are taking place. The best way that I think generally works for the synthesis is to do what I would call framing the sources. Start off a paragraph with your own idea, your own explanation, connect it to the source, and then come back to your idea. That way, most of the paragraph is you. You have ownership of the argument, as opposed to if you start with like King, and then you connect it back to yourself, and then you go back to King, the source is now dominating the paragraph, and I don't think that blend is quite happening as much. When you use a source, it doesn't mean you're doing a big long quote. You just might reference something, whether it be the minority getting sucked up by the majority, just and unjust laws. It's not that you have to quote like 5 pages from any of the sources. That's one of the reasons why I gave you lengthier sources. It gives you more flexibility with stuff that you can pull from. You might actually use Mary Wollstonecraft as a source, because there could be like that one line that Kayla liked that could be useful for the argument that you're going to use. And you may not use any Mary Wollstonecraft, but you'll have yogurt to be happy. And then I go back to your idea, like where you kind of finish it off. And that's why we'll do some sample stuff first. Like I really don't want you to go home and start writing it. But what would be a good idea is, as you come across stuff that's happening today, whether it be things on social media or high-speed chases on the news down in Florida, as you go, hey, wait a minute, there's some social protest or disobedience taking place. That could be something to hold on to. Like Charlottesville from last year, would be an example that I could see people going to. And I could see folks using Charlottesville as, this is why it's necessary. I could also see folks going, and this is how it can go too far. So I think the ones that are probably going to separate themselves are those that can take the idea from the sources but apply it to what's going on in today's world. But we'll do some things in class to kind of reinforce that before you actually end up writing them. So I think that. And next week we're not going to talk about synthesis at all because we're going to do some multiple choice stuff. But Bree, do you have something?
Wait, so I just want to clarify. We will 5 days?
You will. You should. I'm planning on about a week. Yeah. So I think it'll be 5 days. Maybe it'll end up being 4. Sorry, but I think it'll be 5 days. Because what a lot of times people will do is, and we'll still have like a literature quiz that week, but it gives you an opportunity to work on synthesis. Some of you might polish off some things with your independent reading journal that you'd be submitting that week. But yeah, you'll have the majority of a week to.
Why don't you like
So that if you're not here on the 19th,
Yeah,
you'll still have it picked up and you can check it in and credit.
Why do you hate it all day?
That's it.
I don't like it.
That's your only.
Yeah, I just think it's lousy. That's like Finny, right? Yeah. And
In the tree, and they jump off the tree, breaks his
yeah,
leg and
yeah,
dies.
yeah.
I mean,
No, John's the author's name. John Holmes. John's not a character. Finny's the character.
Finny's a character.
Who's the other? There's 2.
Yeah, there's like a Finny and.
If you want to say Fur, but
Yeah, I know that's what I was gonna say. No, what is his name? Let me look it up.